welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and we've got a new genre today that we haven't talked about before, and it is romantasies. So these are the swooniest of the romantasies. We've got some coworkers who are very into these types of books. So Jill, I'm excited to hear your first pick.
So my first one is The Heartless Hunter. This is the first in a series called The Crimson Moth by Kristen Cicerelli. It was published in this year, February 2024. On the night of Rune's life changed together, blood ran in the streets. Now in the aftermath of a devastating revolution, witches have been diminished from powerful rulers to outcasts, ruthlessly hunted due to their waning magic, and Rune must hide what she is. Spending her days pretending to be nothing more than a vapid young socialite, Rune spends her nights as a crimson moth, a witch vigilante who rescues her kind from being purged. When a rescue goes wrong, she decides to throw the witch hunters off her scent and gain the intel she desperately needs by courting the handsome Gideon Sharp, a notorious and unforgiving witch hunter loyal to the revolution, who she can't help but find herself falling for. Gideon loathes the decadence and superficiality Rune represents, but when he learns that Crimson Moth has been doing Rune's merchant ships to smuggle renegade witches out of the Republic, he inserts himself into her social circles by pretending to court her right back. He soon realizes that beneath her beauty and shallow facade is someone fiercely intelligent and tender who feels like his perfect match. Except what if she's the very villain he's been hunting? Kristen Cicerelli's Crimson Moth is a thrilling start to a romantic fantasy duology where the only thing more treacherous than being a witch is falling in love. So, Heartless Hunter.
Heartless Hunter. My first pick comes from our YA collection, and this is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This was published last year. When two young rival journalists find love through a magical connection, they must face the depths of hell and a war among gods to seal their fate forever. After centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again, but 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction, and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe drawer, where they vanish, into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. This is the first book in the Letters of Enchantment series, if this sounds like an interesting series. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross.
So this next one, These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is also the first in a series. This one is labeled as a teen book, but it probably is a teen book. Let's be honest. A lot of these fantasy romances are teen books. This debut is an imaginative Romeo and Juliet retelling in 1920s Shanghai. So that sounds fun. The year is 1926, and Shanghai hums to the tune of debauchery. A blood feud between two gangs runs the streets red, leaving the city helpless in the grip of chaos. At the heart of it all is 18-year-old Julia Kai, a former flapper who has returned to assume her role as a proud heir of the Scarlet Gang, a network of criminals far above the law. Their only rivals in power are the White Flowers, who have fought the Scarlets for generations, and behind every move is their heir, Roma Montegov, Juliet's first love and first betrayal. But when the gangsters on both sides show signs of instability, culminating in clawing their own throats out, the people start to whisper of a contagion, a madness, of a monster in the shadows. As the deaths stack up, Juliet and Roma must set their guns and grudges aside and work together, or if they can't stop this mayhem, then there will be no city left for either to rule. So, these violent delights.
My next pick is a fan favorite of a lot of the staff here, Rebecca Yaros's Fourth Wing, published last year. In this book, you enter the brutal and elite world of a war college for dragon riders. 20-year-old Violet Sorengale was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, living in a quiet life among books and history. Now, the commanding general, also known as her tough-as-Talon's mother, has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become part of the elite dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away, because dragons don't bond to fragile humans. They incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success. The rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter, like Zayden Riorson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders' Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet with every day that passes, the war outside grows more deadly, the kingdom's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers, everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda, because once you enter, there are only two ways out. You either graduate or you die. This is the first book in the Empyrean series, so she's a popular author. I read other books of hers, but not in the Romantasy.
I read that one. It was really good.
I think I'm one of the few staff that has not read it.
Probably.
You will.
This is my next one. It's by Holly Black, who writes a lot of like fun, creepy stuff. This is The Cruel Prince. This was published in 2018, which probably makes it one of the first romantasies that exists. It is number 1 in a series. It's Folk of the Air series, number 1. Of course I want to be like them. They're beautiful as blades, forged in some divine fire. They will live forever. And Cardan is even more beautiful than the rest. I hate him more than all the others. I hate him so much that sometimes when I look at him, I can hardly breathe. Jude was 7 when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there, despite her mortality. But many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Cardan, the youngest and wickedest son of the High King. To win a place in court, she must defy him and face the consequences. As Jude becomes more deeply embroiled in palace intrigues and deceptions, she discovers her own capacity for trickery and bloodshed. But as betrayal threatens to drown the courts of Fairy and violence, Jude will need to risk her life in a dangerous alliance to save her sisters and the Fairy itself. The Cruel Prince.
My third pick is A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. And this is Persephone is the goddess of spring by title only. The truth is, since she was a little girl, flowers have shriveled at her touch. After moving to New Athens, she hopes to lead an unassuming life disguised as a mortal journalist. Hades, god of the dead, has built a gambling empire in the mortal world, and his favorite bets are rumored to be impossible. After a chance encounter with Hades, Persephone finds herself in contract with the god of the dead, and the terms are impossible. Persephone must create life in the underworld or lose her freedom forever. The bet does more than expose Persephone's failure as a goddess, however. As she struggles to sow the seeds of her freedom, love for the god of the dead grows, and it's forbidden. So this one sounded interesting to me after seeing Hades Town at the PAC with sure. Hades and Persephone. So check out A Touch of Darkness.
There's probably a lot of that kind of Greek mythology in these. So this next one, you probably heard of the author, Sarah Moss. She's written a ton of these kind of things. But I asked, which series is the swooniest? So, and I was told this is the one. This is number 1, Court of Thorns and Roses, number 1. There's many more in the series. When 19-year-old Huntress Fair kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows only about from legends, Fair discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy Tamlin transform from icy hostility into fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient, wicked shadow is growing, and Fair must find a way to stop it, or doom Tamlin and his world forever. A book that blends romance, adventure, and fairy lore into an unforgettable read. There are 5 total books in this series, and I don't think I've ever met anyone that didn't like it. So if you want to experiment, I think this might be the one for you.
She's very popular here. My 4th pick, I like the cover of this one. The Night Ends with Fire by K.X. Song, and this was published earlier this year. The 3 kingdoms are at war, but Mylin's father refuses to answer the imperial draft. Trapped by his opium addiction, he plans to sell her for her dowry. But when Mylin discovers her husband-to-be is another violent, ill-tempered man, she realizes that nothing will change for her unless she takes matters into her own hands. The very next day, she disguises herself as a boy and enlists in her father's palace. In the army, Mylin's relentless hard work brings her recognition, friendship, and a growing closeness with Sky, a prince-turned-training partner. But has she simply exchanged one prison for another? As her kingdom barrels toward destruction, she begins to have visions of a sea dragon spirit that offers her true power and freedom, but with a deadly price. With the future of the three kingdoms hanging in the balance, she will need to decide whom to trust. Sky, who inspires her loyalty and love, the sea dragon spirit, who has his own murky agenda, or an infuriating enemy prince who makes her question everything she once knew about her kingdom and about her own heart. So the night ends with fire. Sounds swoony.
Swoony indeed. And it's got one of those on the side.
It's a beautiful book.
I love how they do that. Mm-hmm. So, my last book today is The Curse Breakers, #1, A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. Fall in love, break the curse. Cursed by a powerful enchantress to repeat the autumn of his 18th year, Prince Wren, the heir of Emberfall, thought he could be saved easily if a girl fell for him. But that was before he turned into a vicious beast, hell-bent on destruction. Before he destroyed his castle, his family, and every last shred of hope. Nothing has ever been easy for Harper, and her father long gone, her mother dying, and her brother constantly underestimating her because of her cerebral palsy, Harper learned tough enough to survive. But when she tries to save a stranger on the streets of Washington, D.C., she's pulled into a magical world. Break the curse, save the kingdom. Harper doesn't know where she is or what to believe. A prince, a curse, a monster. As she spends time with Wren in this enchanted land, she begins to understand what's at stake. And as Wren realizes Harper is just not another girl to charm, his hope comes flooding back. But powerful forces are standing against Emberfall, and it will take more than a broken curse to save Harper, Wren, and the people from utter ruin. Yeah, a curse so dark and lonely.
Last pick is also a series, and this is the first book in the Kingmaker Chronicles series. And this is A Promise of Fire by Amanda Boucher, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Kingdoms will rise and fall for her. Kat isn't who she pretends to be. She's perfectly content disguised as a soothsayer in a traveling circus, avoiding the destiny the gods and her dangerous family have saddled her with. As far as she's concerned, the magic humming within her blood can live and die with her. She won't be anyone's pawn. But then she locks eyes with an ambitious warlord from the magic-deprived South, and her illusion of safety is shattered forever. Griffin knows Kat is the kingmaker, the woman able to divine truth through lies, and he wants her to be a powerful weapon for his newly conquered realm. Kidnapping her off the street is simple enough, but keeping her by his side is infuriatingly tough. Kat fights him at every turn, showing a ferocity of spirit that burns hot and leaves him desperate for more. But can he ever hope to prove to his once captive that he wants her there by his side as his equal, his companion, and maybe someday his queen? This book was described as a white-hot fantasy willing to break all the rules. So, A Promise of Fire, first book in the Kingmaker Chronicles series.
That one definitely looks like an adult book. Well, if you're interested in this new genre, this romance, fantasy, romantasy, which is, we think it's a hot topic. I mean, we found a lot of books on this.
There's been a lot of talk on the internet about this, too. So we thought, well, we'll take a stab and do romantasies and find some swoony ones for you. Yeah. We thank you for watching our videos. You can find us on our Kimberly Public Library webpage, which links to YouTube, our Facebook page. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.